Ghazzy's saying, I don't give a crap about minions this league. I'm not gonna focus on them. I was like, I don't know.
Okay, so this has been greatly exaggerated. Probably one of the best they've ever had, actually. It was really good. I'm just not the target audience for it.
Dude, I gotta get on the
challenge. I don't know about that, dude.
All right, man. Well, it's been a while since we've actually talked on the pod about, Path of Exile 2. We have this massive update coming out. The last time we chatted was literally Thanksgiving Day here. I remember vividly. I hopped on with you in the morning. I think you were streaming. We had the podcast before I went to my Thanksgiving meal, and my whole family was downstairs. I was like dressed up, and it was a crazy podcast. I think there was a lot of innuendo that happened, not a lot of PoE2 talk. We did speak about minions briefly, but today I kind of wanted to dive in a little bit more because, this patch, that's what everybody's freaking out about. But a couple days ago, I got a message from somebody saying that you're actually thinking minions they might be either bait or you don't even care about minions this league. Is that like misinformation? Because that doesn't sound like you at all, dude. I was like, what are you talking about? Ghazzy's saying, I don't give a crap about minions this league. I'm not gonna focus on them. I was like, I don't know.
Okay, so this has been greatly exaggerated from what I've been saying on stream and from like one video. It's extremely greatly exaggerated. So the TLDR, or the explanation rather, is that I went in for this patch saying that I don't care if we get balance changes. I don't care if we get minion changes. I don't really care if we get a new class either. The only thing I care about in this update is that the endgame goes from the lackluster, hollow shell that it is in the current state of the game to becoming something we can have as a great replayable content section of the game to play. And it is so important for the game to do this. And, they've emphasized in this as well. Mark said something about plugging the holes between 0.5, 1.0 to make sure, and what Jonathan also said, to make sure that not only do they consider the endgame to be good, but they want the community to consider it to be good. So all my focus has been on that. The fact that we got a ton of minion love, that's just, the cherry on top. Like, I love it, absolutely, but that's not my focus.
Right. Okay, so it was twisted and greatly exaggerated, just as you said. Okay, that's right, because this patch, it's actually wanting me to try them out, even almost convincing me to start them. So I want to hear from you. I know we don't have like patch notes or anything, okay? And I saw on my feed that you released a video about the Spirit Walker. I'm wondering if it was bait, or maybe that was the Raven staff being bait. The Raven staff. Do you think that these two big minion focus builds are going to be traps to start with here, since there's so much unknown about them?
Raven's Flock, to start with, has this scenario of the skill is a free spirit cost. It doesn't cost you anything. It has, Lance made a really good rundown or breakdown of the issues with it. It missed a few minor things, but for the most part, it was pretty much on point. It's my understanding of that, even without the numbers, because the numbers will give us an indicator of what we can do with it. But since it's the opportunity cost is you wheeling a staff, you lose the defensive aspect of those things. You could run a Disciple of Russia to get the focus or +2 minions and extra energy shield, sure. But you also lose the vast amount of offensive scaling from a Scepter. And that's fine. It's a pretty big opportunity cost. But the skill is a damage over time effect. It lacks a lot of modifier tags, or tags in general. And then it has this weird component of dot effects as the main source, and then a partial conversion to chaos on a cooldown based on hit, which needs to be ramped up, which seems to be doing good damage. I just think it's going to be like a utility opportunity cost for using a staff, but it's going to be a utility skill that's going to focus more on the approach of the grueling madness, which is the slow effect from it. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope Lance and me are both wrong, because I think that, the Righteous Fire minion stuff, the fusing Pox and me together would be really fun, but that's my take on that one. I also think
on that for a second, do you think it's a little scary how a lot of people did latch like the RF language onto that? Even they did that, right? So I wonder if a lot of players are kind of thinking, hey, this staff is coming to the game. It's Righteous Fire. What is it? It's Raven. It's F. It's RF, right?
Yeah.
It's Raven's Flock, so it stands for R. Like, a lot of people are almost adopting this as, oh, this is the temporary replacement for RF until it comes into the game. I wonder if a lot of people are going to just kind of blindly push toward that and then be like sourly disappointed that it's going to be more utility than actually a main skill like RF is in PoE1.
Yeah, at least that's what I'm
Oh,
thinking.
yeah.
But I mean, there's a lot of aspects to take into consideration, right? But I mean, giving us essentially a free skill that costs nothing to run, that doesn't make sense to me. That would be able to be run as your main source of damage. Like that doesn't make sense. That would be completely broken. So now that's kind of my take on the Ravens Flonk.
There's also another interesting aspect on it, and it kind of plays into all the different items that they've been showcasing. I'd love to hear your take on it too. I asked DM about it the other day. A lot of these unique items, they're gameplay defining. Like it looks like you can base builds on them. However, they're also locked behind Pinnacle bosses. So there's this whole different element essentially where now there's all these cool new uniques, but you have to beat the new Pinnacles to get them, so you can't really league start them. I've been seeing a little bit of discussion in my comments from casual players essentially saying, oh my goodness, this awesome new Captain America Vibranium Shield, but it's locked behind Tool and Ash. Oh, I'm never going to get to that. It's probably going to be very expensive.
I'm going to cut you off there.
Yeah, go for it.
It's funny that you say the Captain America thing. So I was talking to some people about this sometime after the launch of 0.5, when things calm down a little bit. I want to group together a full party. I have a list. Hold on, I have a list.
I have a list. Say what I think? Avengers?
It is.
Avengers style?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God.
Here's the list.
No.
Well, it's a rough draft of it, right? So I want people to, like, in the party. It doesn't matter if it's going to be good, right? But you have to pick, thematic MTXs on thematic skills that would be covering one of the MCU Infinity Saga movies only, Avengers characters, so everybody will be able to understand, because not everybody are nerds like us, right?
Yeah.
So I want that to be the case. And, we're talking about, Black Widow being the Huntress and having, some big hulky unit. That's your Black Widow Hulk combination.
There you go.
You have the Captain America stuff. You have like Ant-Man being a Nettle and Spectre summoner or something, which is absolutely terrible. But then sending all of those people into some super juiced content and then some Uber boss and just see if we can beat it with this thrown together bullshit.
That'd be good. You got your easy Hawkeye, man. Like, oh, that'd be good.
Yeah,
that would be good.
Cock.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can't believe they actually put that in the game. Like everybody immediately latched onto that. It's really cool that they basically ripped something from the MCU and everyone was like, holy crap, this is so good. Like it almost gives that, it really made me pumped because it gives them so much more limitless like design space. I was thinking about once they get all the classes in the game and ascendancy classes, like the game could become a little bit like Path of Exile 1, where it's not stale, but they can introduce new play styles as easily as introducing a brand new class. But when they're adding these uniques in the game, that literally give you unique animations, unique skills, unique effects, unique interactions with the terrain. Like, it unlimits their design space. And it makes me really excited, not only just for the immediate future, for all the stuff we're getting now, but what's going to be in the game 2-3 years down the line. It's going to be a little ridiculous, I feel.
I mean, the game already provides a larger variety of playable builds than PoE1 has. That partially because of lack of proper endgame bosses, which were getting changed now, sure. So maybe that will shift a bit, but there's a large variety of builds, and having uniques, create an even more wider range of available playable builds for the community. I think this is great, but it also will create balance hell for them moving forward. So we'll see how that, turns out in a couple of years from now, but I'm not going to complain. I'm going to sit there and enjoy it. I think it's cool.
Dude, 100%. I'm going insane. Like, seriously going insane. Because I want to go martial artist, right? To start. Yeah. They said that their Fists of Stone passive changes the modifiers of rare gloves, right? But also all unique gloves also have their own set of extra modifiers that change. Like, I don't know. It's going to be so cool going in on launch day and starting to discover all this stuff. It almost feels as big in some ways as 0.1, where it is literally like, I know they revealed a lot in the stream, but I feel like especially once you get to Endgame and you start pushing your builds and going into these new quests and bosses, it's going to feel like there's that volume of content in the game like compared to point one.
No.
I'm pumped for it. I'm so pumped.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So the stalling continues.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your opinion on that, just really briefly, just going back to the unique stuff for a second. What's your take on people who want these unique items to be more readily available? Do you like that we have these build defining uniques locked behind pinnacles? Because personally, I'll just throw it out there, I am a fan. I'm a super fan of it. You know, I think it's fine.
That's a good question. I like interesting items to be locked behind specific type of content, such as these bosses.
Mm-hmm.
For example, I like Starforge. I think it's a pretty cool PC building company. You can check it out. It's anyway. Sorry, old habits. No, but like the story from Shaper, right? And the problem was like divination cards and fragments of items kind of ruined that, and now it's available everywhere. And it's no longer this cool thing you can get from this boss kind of approach. But I mean, at the same time, I also think that people put a lot of pressure or too much value in it, like Sylvan's effigy from the ritual. A lot of people have been saying that that's going to be mandatory to make the Zoomancer / Zookeeper, whatever people want to call it,
right,
build functional. And I'm pretty much on point with or on par with Crip, for example. We had a conversation about it earlier, where we were both saying that it's kind of bait. You don't really want to use that because there's too much valuable power scaling coming from a rare scepter. And with the current scope of how the skill tree is looking and what we kind of expect, obviously patches might change some of this, you're kind of incentivized to travel away from the hunter side of the tree. You want to go to the minion parts of the tree, because a wise man told me that every companion in the game is a minion, but not every minion is a companion. So you're going to want to go to the minion nodes as a result of that. And if that's the case, and what's the point in running Sylvan's effigy? It's a lot of travel nodes to get there, not to mention gigantic.
Yeah. It's the whole scepter discussion we just had earlier with chat. Essentially, a lot of people think it's just going to be giga expensive too. So I feel like a lot of people are going to race toward that, realize that, oh my gosh, it's actually not, like you said, as valuable as we thought. Like the meta will be getting your beefy rare or as Mark said, juicy rare scepter, and actually scaling your minions that way. Are you?
I mean, there's.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a scenario where it's good, because I mean, the trade-off is you lose a lot of power, level scaling, and certain other damage modifiers, and you get some mini damage, you get some spirit from it, right? And the whole companion thing. So the loss of power needs to be compensated with the modifiers of the extra team beast that weapons brings to the table, which there might be a case scenario for. You can get some haste aura, then the next one you can get a damage aura. Like there are scenarios where it might be good enough to actually warrant the use of that, but it also comes with the addition of you having to go out there and find the beast you want with the mods you want, and now you're sitting there for days on end just resetting a checkpoint in the campaign.
Oh no. Yeah, so it kind of sounds like with the unique thing, I think like the design is essentially fine, where some of these are locked to like ritual, certain bosses. It's kind of cool. I see a lot of people when they bring this up, they're almost comparing like the Captain America shield to Temporalis, which I feel is like almost going back to you not being excited for minions, because I'm like, well, Temporalis is very different than a shield being locked behind a mini Pinnacle boss, right? Temporalis is like incredibly chased, much harder to get to, right? There's no comparison. These are very different comparisons here, So
I mean, it might be a hot take, but I don't think Temporalis should be in the game in the way it is. I understand and I agree that there should be chase items, like mega big chase items. I just think that if you take another example of something that is going to be astronomically rare, like a 1p voices in PoE2's wording or terminology, that would be 4 cluster or 4 jewel socket voices, right? That is incredible amount of power. The power gap between someone running a 4 jewel socket voices, which is going to go for ridiculous amounts of currency, versus not using that, is not that big. It's noticeable, it's big, but it's not. It's not the difference between going from America to Europe. We're talking about a lake. But if you go from someone wearing a Temporalis versus someone not wearing Temporalis, you're on a different planet compared to the rest of the player base.
Yeah.
I think just the power gap there is way too big.
Yeah, it is insane. And maybe just a brief tangent here. A couple months ago, I think you reacted to one of my videos kind of talking about how Path of Exile 2 might be getting a little wild in terms of pace, almost kind of similar to Path of Exile 1. Curious to hear, after seeing like the breakdown for 0.5, seeing 3.28 play out and all that, what do you think about the future of the game? Do you think it's really going to be moving closer and closer to PoE 1 while keeping its PoE2 secret sauce and like all the animations and graphics and updated quality of life? You got WASD, all this stuff. Or do you think with this patch we might see some surprises which differentiates it from its predecessor a little bit more?
I think that if they wanted to create more of a divide between the two approaches, they would have showcased the actual footage they've shown to be different than what we actually saw. Because what we saw was, here's devs making a build and they're clearing at the speed of progression that we're all expecting to see, which is more like a PoE 1.5. But before this endgame change kicked in, we didn't really know what to expect, right? It was like this blank canvas. We had no idea what the vision was. People talk about the vision, but we didn't even know what it was going to look alike. Like, I had no idea what it was going to resemble. Now we see that we have this meaningful, immersive combat up to Act 3, Act 4 for some builds, and then you're kind of online, and now you're at the 1.5, PoE 1.5 kind of power creep fantasy scaling, which I think a lot of people would appreciate. But that's not taking away like combo gameplay. I think the Druid, for example, provided combo gameplay in a very, very good way, whereas the Warriors lack impact and enjoyability in the setting up their combos. Like, oh, you do this, which does nothing, then you do something. Whereas the Druid, for example, you know, the plants and the wolves and everything, every step of their combos felt impactful and fun to play with. So I think they just need to work on that aspect to have the combo gameplay being fun in a PoE 1.5 power creep scenario, which it feels like they're going for.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement with you at this point. I kind of saw the writing on the wall, and that's why I kind of put out those videos. I was like, one last gasp to maybe predict, they'll go wild back in this direction with the OG vision. But you're kind of right about them not even knowing what the vision was, because the end game of PoE2 was kind of scrapped together very quickly. I don't think they had an idea of really what players would be able to do once they got their hands on it. And it really quickly did kind of turn into PoE 1.5. And I think it's very hard at this point to force the gameplay, I think, that was, at least in the eyes of me and many others, originally pitched to last longer throughout the game. I get that being a god and zooming and clearing screens, that was, I think, always supposed to be the pinnacle of progression. But I think a lot of people thought it was going to last longer than, as you said, like Act 3, Act 4, or whenever your build comes online, which is, for most builds, decently early if you know what you're doing. I've kind of accepted it at this point. I mean, I have a lot of fun playing it. I still have a lot of fun playing PoE 1. I had fun with Diablo 4. I don't know if you had fun with Diablo 4, but I actually did. It was kind of crazy. Played all the way through it. So
I've been updating guides there since the launch of the game, and I've been dreading every season, and it's been so boring updating them. But this is the first time in, well, at least 2.5 years that it was actually enjoyable to go in and write all the guides and update it and play it for at least a week.
There you go.
I get a week's worth of enjoyment from it. I know Mirage League was really good, and I still consider PoE 1 to be like one of the best, if not the best ARPG out there. But I'm not the player. I'm not the target audience for that type of league mechanic. So I got about a week's worth of enjoyment PoE 1, which is the shortest I've ever enjoyed PoE 1 in the last 12 years. Yeah. And I gave Last Epoch a week's worth of enjoyment. I give Torchlight a week's worth of enjoyment, and I consider all of these games to be good. So I kind of have to say D4 is good because I got a week's worth of enjoyment.
100%. That's interesting to hear that you got about a week of enjoyment from PoE 1 2 this league. I got about 2 weeks. Like I kind of degened. I was sick and I degened, and I got all 36 challenges and I popped out. It was also the fastest I bounced from a PoE 1 league too, and I would consider, like, I thought it was good. I thought it was really good, but it was something about that mechanic that, like, I don't know. It was like almost too samey. Just like the repetition of the map again. It almost felt Scourgey to me.
I know.
You know, going back to Scourge. think that had something big to do with it, from my perspective.
And I feel like it was very map focused. The way I enjoy PoE 1 is not mapping. If I do maps, is to play test something, and I'll enjoy that aspect of it. And I do Pinnacle stuff and juice stuff, and I'm not the kind of player you'll see do 1,000 maps a day. Like, you'll never catch me do that anymore. I've done it in the past. I don't enjoy it. So like, I do my crafts, I do my thing, and then when the entire league mechanic is just all about map, that's like, I'm not the target audience. But the majority of the player base seems to be. I think that the league mechanic the league was probably one of the best they've ever had, actually. It was really good. I'm just not the target audience for it. It's like, I have a very specific opinion because of that, but I do think it was one of the best leagues they've ever had.
100%. I want to talk about the new Endgame Atlas for PoE2, but before we move on to that and get your opinion on a very specific part of it, I'd be remiss if we didn't skim over at least the addition of being able to tame bosses in Path of Exile 2. I know this is also the other huge, like, is this bait? Is this going to be total crap? Are the bosses going to suck? What are the cooldowns on their abilities? How fast? There's all these questions, right, bubbling around. What boss is going to be best? So I asked DM, I've asked everybody I've talked to, which boss do you think is going to be goated? Do you think there's going to be one that's like standing above the rest that you're going to tame and use? If you do a Zoomancer build, you're going to. I don't even need to ask that.
I'm definitely on board with doing it. Yeah. Absolutely. Mine's
Devourer, by the way. People think I'm crazy. Yeah. I think it's cool.
Pretty decent one, I think.
I think so too.
I like the Shakira, the Scorpion for Sekima, but I mean, it's hard for me because I'm looking more at what I hope will be, or what I expect to have a good performance, but it's all gated or based around patch notes and the changes they're doing. Because if they do make unique tamed beasts, where the unique version of it is noticeably better than the regular tame beasts, then we are having the same problem a lot of us are talking about when it comes to minions, and that is that everything is pointing towards Infernal Legion. And if they do that, then if you can have Morvac, something as with a better HP scaling than a regular ass elephant with some modifiers, then Morvac becomes a really cool unit to choose from. But I mean, we have Geonor. I mean, it has a cool factor, right? Yes. But I do hope that Infernal Legion gets gutted so we can actually look at hit versions. But 100%. Some of these bosses have just way too many abilities to, be considered reasonable to use. Like, we have what we call the Kitava Herald issue, whereas there's too many abilities being scaled, too many abilities that they are using that scales differently. Whereas in PoE2, we do have more generic supports able to handle multiple type of different abilities, I guess. But it all depends on how they design the whole approach of the modifiers of them. But this is all assuming Infernal Legion gets nerfed.
Right. I wonder if they'd consider, this is probably a lot of work on their end, right? But just like our minions have command abilities, what if they gave just the unique bosses command abilities in some way, shape, or form? I guess that would be a lot of work to do just for one Ascendancy node, but it would be so great, and then you could scale that ability in some way, know exactly when to use it, because we just know, you're going to be taking down a big rare or something, or a boss, and by the time it's dead, Crowbell's going to be finishing up his wind-up of the bell, and it's going to look ridiculous. Just like I was watching the Spirit Walker showcase, and Mark just killed all the monsters with Twister, and then you see the stag slowly just prancing over the corpses. And I'm like, what?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it would be cool, but at the same time, we're, balance hell.
Right.
And, it's just around the corner. So I'm not sure how the hell they're going to fix that. I mean, they're already struggling with the Spectre thing, which I understand why they're choosing to keep the Spectre situation the way it is. But, adding more to that list feels a bit so.
Well, okay, so you're going to hate what I was going to pitch here, too, all right? You got to slide in. You got to slide in and be like, I would love if maybe the Infernalist or the Lich got a node that allowed you to raise unique Spectres, like just undead, like Draven, or Asinia or Lachlan. Imagine if we get unique Spectres that we could raise. Like, this is opening up a can of worms for GGG. They can just add more different unique bosses that we can tame. So eventually, by the end, we'll be able to tame or raise or dominate. You know, Templar could have dominate humanoid, right? And they could dominate like the Viper Napuazzi. How cool. Come on. We got to be able to tame all the bosses.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I love getting minion stuff, but at some point, some effort and focus needs to go on non-minion related stuff in the game as well. Yeah. It can't just be, fucking Candyland for one archetype of players.
Then you'd have complete control over the landscape. Everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, I want to," because I imagine like that was one of the most exciting things for players who were enfranchised and kind of just, on the sidelines, just watching the reveal. Everybody saw, wait a second, you can have a boss as your minion? That's so sick. I imagine that's going to be like a boon for minion build creators and guide makers. I'm like, oh, you can do a tier list of the bosses and everything. Like, so many people are going to try this out because it is a sick mechanic. It's almost getting me to go away from melee and sit there, and I know you hate when I say this, just let my minions do everything and I do nothing. I just follow them around right behind them or in front of them. So that's all you do. No buttons are pressed.
I will say this though, because I was talking about this with some of the devs at the last ExileCon when they were talking about how they wanted gameplay to be more active, and I kept asking, it's like, how are you going to make minion play more active than PoE1? Because before you get like trigger craft automation, all those things in PoE1, minions have more buttons than you have in your action bar. So you have to use the other action bar at the same time to play minion builds. Not all minion builds, but a lot of them. Right. And then, the progression of a character is to automate as much of that as possible. And that feels very rewarding, which is one of the main things that makes me feel PoE1 minions to be so fun to play. Is every step you get to is very rewarding. It's like, okay, now I don't have 9 keybinds, I now have 6. Okay, now I'm going down to 4. Great, now 3. Now my character is wearing Giga gear. I only shield charge and press convocation. It feels very rewarding to go through those hoops. But a lot of minion builds in PoE2 is like, I mean, excluding shenanigans like, hey, I'm just going to run into a pack of enemies and weapon swap twice. Excluding those things, there are a lot of minion builds in PoE2 that is very lazy. Right. And it's just awkward when PoE2 is supposed to be the more active approach, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. No, I realized that because I've gone back and I've watched like PoE1 gameplay with minions versus PoE2, and it is just so much more chill in PoE2 than that game. Like on one minion playstyle that I've tried, and I've only done it like through the campaign, but Unearth was really fun to me. I really like those minions, the little scorpion guys. I know they're not the most strong, but I love just creating the swarms of them, using ED Contagion, and then having the purple infections. And that was a really rewarding playstyle to me, but I don't think it's that powerful, especially in Endgame, and the fact that you got to have like corpses to create. So on bosses, you have to use whatever that 60 spirit gem is to like turn your skeletons into corpses. It's like, it's like a mess with that, unfortunately. But
there's the guy who made the meta Bloodwave build in D4 Scriblets many seasons ago. He's always on the Unearth train for PoE2.
Okay.
And they are stronger than people give them credit for. The main problem is temp minions dying when you outrange them. And the same thing with zombies. I think zombies are being very much slept on, especially like minion instability shenanigans with the recent changes to the power charge. Like, they're actually really good. I've used them in one of my builds. They're absolutely fantastic. It's just the use cases are kind of limited and rather specific. And that is mainly a reason or a result of them dying from being when you outrange them. Whereas your permanent minions, they leash back and teleport to you when you outrange them.
Wonder if that's something that could be looked at then, because those minions were always more enticing to me than all the others. But I think I'll give it a go. We got 6 months with this, 6 maybe 7 months with this new league. I think I'm going to do at least a couple builds. Yeah, I know, 6, 7. Yeah, I know. So I might try minions. I wanted to get your take on the Atlas, and not, I know you've already yapped to death. You're streaming every day. We're stalling. This is like the worst and the best time right now to be a creator. At least GGG's giving us teasers daily. That is kind of nice.
True.
But you've talked to death about the Atlas and everything. It is completely revamped, totally new experience. In my opinion, it was way more than I thought it was going to be. I thought stuff would be spruced up. I thought we'd get quality of life. This was far beyond my expectations. I did think there was like a 60% chance of like swords, but as far as like content this patch, way more than I thought. I would love to hear your take on the mechanic that piques your interest the most of the 6 that are on the Atlas now. We got the, Expedition, Ritual, Breach, the main quest line. Which one of those like made you go, I want to do that, and I want to do that now? They did a great job.
Oh, I think they, like, a little cop-out answer. I think they did a really good job across the board on every single mechanic, making me feel more excited of engaging with all of them. So my answer would be more like the one I'm going to be farming and focusing a lot of my effort in is going to be Breach. And that has more to do with the first introduction of actually having other vectors, other knobs we can twist and turn for scaling minions, which is, we can craft on rings now. And that's from the Genesis tree. And that excites me a lot. Like, we're moving away. Well, not away, but we're adding other final vectors that we can finally scale our builds with. That is not just get the biggest rare scepter you can find and afford.
Yeah, that.
So Breach.
So that was actually initially my candidate for like the least exciting, because don't kill me. Don't kill me, because a lot of the content is from keepers. I played a lot of keepers, so it was cleverly reused from PoE 1. All this other stuff looks, quite new. The bosses, PoE 1, the encounters, PoE 1, but they redid the Genesis tree. And now you have, like you just pointed out, the coolest thing is the not unique, but special jewelry crafting, where you're getting all these special mods, which is something that I think PoE2 has been sorely lacking across the board for a long time, that they were using like runes to replace. Basically influence from Path of Exile 1. Even as not the most sweaty crafter or anything, I always loved the influence system in Path of Exile 1 and using the different orbs to hit that special mod pool. It's the only time I ever used Craft of Exile. Was like, all right, I've got 5 mods on this chest plate. Which should I use? A Crusader's orb? Should I use a Warlord's Exalted orb? What should I go? I'm gonna go to Craft of Exile, see the odds. It's the only time I've ever done that. And it seems like, without explicitly saying that, that's what it reminded me of when I saw them talking about all these new special modifiers on different pieces of gear from these league mechanics. I instantly thought, oh my gosh, this is like almost like Breach influence, because you can only get it from crafting with these different emotions from the tree, or from the Genesis tree. And then the same is kind of with Delirium with the emotions. It really reminds me of influence. So I agree with you. I think that's the coolest part of Breach, is the crafting. So I'm also pumped up.
But what is your favorite mechanic, or Limmy, that you're most excited about?
Yeah, I'm most excited about the Arbiter of Divinity questline, or the Origins of Divinity. That whole, just so
the league mechanic though.
Oh, league mechanic. Okay, well, league mechanic wise, man, I think it's gotta be Ritual, which is hilarious, because if you would have asked me before this patch, that would have been my least favorite. I kind of make fun of it as like the ultimate stand in a circle, blobs of mobs pop on top of you. But they're rolling in one of my favorite things from Path of Exile 1, the Maven's Crucible, and essentially doing that with Ritual. I think they showed a 6 boss Ritual. Dude, so I'm really pumped for that in particular. I know it's going to be a lot of build up, but I love, bosses are great in Path of Exile too. I'm really hoping buffing those bosses up and fighting them all at the same time will really challenge, builds and stretch out that endgame a little bit more. So I think it's actually Ritual. And the story, Jonathan dropped some major lore spoilers, and I am a lore hound, so I won't do it on the podcast, but the Ritual story seems to be answering a mystery that has been, when was Fall of Oriath? 2018? 8 years in the making. So I'm pumped up for it.
Yeah, that sounds good. I like that.
Yeah. And the bosses also just look insane. I'm
Yeah.
a sucker.
I love the PoE when they introduced the expedition bosses, like the way they look is just so freaking
It is.
cool.
The
And then
aesthetic.
when they introduced that into PoE2, with like the mirrors and everything, like that boss room, I think that's one of the coolest room designs they've ever made. It is so cool.
Yeah. Even in PoE1, it's sick too. This, like, it's because that's the Citadel map. It's the Nightmare map. Man, that one always pisses me off. I somehow always die to the beams. Like, it's it's so bad, dude. Yeah, I died to the beams coming from the walls, or he 360 no scopes me with the big black beam extending from him, and I'm just thinking, how do I not dodge that? It's absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, seriously, the end game as a whole, it just, I can't believe how much there is in it. I wanna attempt to finish it all. That's my goal for the league. Max out the tree. Oh, love to hear your opinion on that as well. Because my initial thought when I heard, oh yeah, and you can fill out the entire tree, all league mechanics, all passives, I was like, oh, I don't like that. But then they kind of saved it. But I'm curious to hear your full thoughts on it too.
I was very surprised with it, but it does make sense. Like, that's where I feel like it does make sense because of the reasoning they had, right? With being able to put more oomph behind the nodes. And there are a lot of the nodes, to my understanding, a lot of the nodes are player chosen things. You can choose a different variation. Like, oh, well, I want this. The example they gave was I encounter a boss. Here's a chance that you get a shrine effect when you went to the boss room, or here's a chance that the boss gets a shrine effect, but also, becoming harder, but also has better rewards. So you get to choose, the risk reward kind of thing, either help you or present you with a higher challenge with better reward system. And it's one of those things where they were very adamant and talking about a get off point where you finish the end game stuff and then you could choose that you're either done with this or do the challenges and then you're done, or you go into the Infinite Atlas and you grind for the sake of wealth acquisition, min-maxing bills and whatnot. I think it's really good to create that get-off point, and I think that's going to create a considerably better endgame experience for the majority of players, because it also feels like that would mean that a lot of people that didn't really know where to go, didn't really have any objectives, didn't really want to do the Infinite Atlas, but now they have set goals they can achieve that are visualized in front of them, and that will hopefully translate to more people actively playing the endgame, which is better for everyone. Markets will be more active and all those things. So I'm not opposed to it at all. I'm actually quite excited for it.
Yeah, they won me over with the player choice nodes, and then you bringing that up there sparked my mind to think about finishing the Atlas in PoE1. It almost seems like, finishing the Atlas tree in PoE2, fully allocating everything, is like that. All right, whatever it is it 116? Like getting every single Atlas point, finishing every map in Path of Exile 1. You fill it all out. It's all finished. It's all unfogged. The same thing is going to happen in PoE2, just in a slightly different manner. I wonder if that kind of went in. Because you're right, there's like multiple getting off points now, right? For people who really want to sink their teeth into the game. There's the challenges. There's maybe just killing all the pinnacles, finishing the storylines. And then there's getting every single point imaginable. That's 3 great checkpoints essentially for different tiers of player who sink their teeth into the end game. And then there's the fourth kind of player who will play for 150, 200, 300 more hours after they finish that. So I think I know we haven't played it yet. I know it hasn't had contact with the enemy, us, the players, but I really do think it's going to be good. And I think they're going to be, at least in their eyes, ready to go in 1.0. I noticed on the stream, Jonathan was basically like, we're gonna, last patch before 1.0. But in all the interviews, he was like, well, if players hate the new Atlas, then we can't leave early access. We'll have to stay in. I think they're incredibly confident. I think they were very shaky about the old Atlas and the original implementation. But with this, I think they're bold. They're like, we did it. We actually did it, guys.
It really does feel like they have the mentality and like their approach to the end game being like, this is what we produced here. We showcase this to the community, and we believe that this is it. And I think that they really did hit the spot. I mean, GGD has a track record history of us expecting sky high expectations on them, and they almost always blow those expectations away and just over deliver. There's very, very few times over the more than a decade of content that they haven't over delivered. There's been a couple of things, we don't have to dig into them. But, you know, at a track record of that much time with that many leagues and that much content, and having a track record with only, I can count them on one hand, the times they haven't over delivered in over a decade. I mean, I think they're pretty much on point. They know what they're doing. And you can, like, people complain all they want, but I think this is going to be it. What really surprised me was how they said they wanted a good end game, and as long as they nail that, the only thing they have left then is just a campaign to launch the game. Great news, everything's perfect. And saying that between 0.5 and 1.0, Mark used the words plug in the holes on whatever needs fine-tuning or fixing with the end game and things going from 0.5 to 1.0. And Jonathan also said, I believe it was Jonathan who said that they don't want the end game to just be something they consider to be good, but they want the community to consider the end game to be good. And that was something I haven't heard them say in that way before. So it was very reassuring that they're making sure that it is actually really good, not just from their perspective, but as a general take on the end game. And I mean, just from what we've seen, it feels like they're well on their way to that point.
Yeah, 100%. Because I think that's something that, like, Jonathan especially says a lot. He's like, I really want to enjoy it. You know, I want to make sure if I think it's fun, I have the confidence that the community will think it's fun eventually. But with the end game, dude, you're so right. He did actually he didn't say I need the end game to be fun. He thinks the community needs it. I don't know if Jonathan's like an end game grinder. He mentioned in the Destin interview, he's like, I kind of cheese the Pinnacle boss fights. I don't really do them, you know, the right way.
Yeah, it's Mark's job.
So, you know,
but everyone likes different things, right?
Yes, exactly.
And I mean, that's important.
Yep.
You know, it's there's a Swedish saying, like, the taste is like your butt cheeks. They're divided, and sometimes you'll find D4 in the middle.
Never heard that. That's a good saying. I'll have to steal it. That's good. Well, you know, it's like the campaign. He's obviously a campaign enjoyer, and you know, man, I am a huge campaign fan. I've always been a fan. You know, Act 3 has had some problems, in my opinion, but it seems like a lot of them are being fixed. I'm pumped for Act 5 and 6. And I also loved how confident they seemed in releasing both of those as well. I think there was an offhand remark with, like, you know, we released Act 4. People loved Act 4. We can drive Act 5 and 6. No testing. We're just going to pop them in 1.0. I know that they said we'll also get to see part of them at Exile Con. But parts of me almost want, like, when I go, I'm like, do I want to demo them or do I want to wait? Do I want to wait for the pure experience? And I know I sure as hell am not gonna avoid those demo computers. I'm gonna queue for those, man.
But you know, there's I talked about this before as well. It's like I think it's smart, not just, you know, after ExileCon, the marketing value, ROI, all of that. Let's take all of that aside. Mm-hmm. The most fun time you play a new campaign is the first playthrough, because the second playthrough you do, you'll find the things you didn't like about it is going to stick out. Oh, this place is too long. Oh, that boss was too hard. That's not balanced. That shit's annoying. That all of those things, no matter how much you might be glazing the game, those things will be the things standing out on the second playthrough. So we know that Act 6 is supposed to be a shorter one. So giving us Act 5 earlier and then releasing this big launch, everything's going to be hyped out, market money and everything, you know, is going to be spent on it, and then giving us a smaller version of an act, I don't think that's going to have that big of an impact. But giving us this big Act 5 and Act 6, here's your first playthrough, I think a lot of people will have a much better reception experience playing that than if they let people play it prior to launching it.
Definitely. And I also hope that they aren't afraid to tune it up a little bit. I think that Act 4, it was good on release, but I also thought it was pretty easy, especially the bosses. I think the only area that really challenged me was not the Siren Caves, the lead up to Tavakai. That was like, that almost felt like Dreadnought in 010 to me the first time I went through it. I really hope that maybe there's a wall or two for players. Kind of like, I don't know if you struggled in 0-1 during your first playthrough of the campaign, but like Geonor, I think I was on Geonor for 2 hours, you know, and I'm okay, right? But I think a lot of people experienced like a block in the campaign on the first time. I think a lot less of that occurred when Act 4 came out, because I think it was tuned lower. I hope they're not afraid to tune Act 5 and 6 so that people do get blocked. But I almost feel like they're a little afraid to do that because it's kind of the gateway to the end game. And I think it also frustrates quite a few people if in an ARPG they get stuck on a boss for like an hour or something and can't power their way through it.
We have like I think that this comes down to the conversation of what people think is the general skill level of the players, and I think that has a very large impact on this conversation. I really do, because we're in a position where we think it's easy. When your build's online, it's all fine. Like that's why it's Act 4 so easy, because Act 3 or some builds early Act 4 comes online. And when they're online, it's not a problem anymore. They kind of fly, right? But the vast majority of players, they talked about this in the Q&A with Siggy, where we talk about a boss taking 5 to 10 seconds. Like, Jesus Christ, you taking more than 10 seconds to kill this guy? Like, what are you doing? But apparently the average kill time is way longer. And we see this in recent games that, and I'm not sure if you're playing the WoW Classic TBC Anniversary, but that's all the rates. Phase 2 just came out today.
Okay.
And they're post-nerf. Every boss is 40% HP nerf. The fights last 1 or 2 minutes. It's a joke. Wow. There's no challenge. There's nothing. And that's for us who play the game a lot. But the reasoning was to make sure that the casual players would stand a chance to experience these raids and have a chance of killing them. But we only see the vocal part of the community talking about how easy it is. This is a joke. Oh, why are you doing this? And I think it's similar in the PoE topic as well, right? Where things are, we think it's too easy, but it's just because our builds are online. If we don't have the right thing or an understanding of it, these fights might actually be really hard. So I'm not sure if they can make them harder. Mm-hmm. And it's also the nature of builds coming online at a certain point or increment with enough power, may it be spirit or gem acquisitions for skills, or if it's just gear or enough skill points in the passive tree to get to that point. So I don't think they can ever make those scenarios difficult per se for the type of players that we are that has experience with the game. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, reflecting a little bit, maybe 0-1-0, going back to kind of them not knowing how players in mass would engage with the game. It was probably the hardest it was ever going to be. Gianor was tuned based on their testing, their like internal testing, and whoever they gave the beta to, right? Now he's slower, he does less damage, you have more rare items when you encounter him. Like, they've made all these changes that I think are kind of irreversible, But like what I just asked for, I don't think is possible with the current design of the game, because like you said, we'll be online, or they'll already have made boss abilities take a couple milliseconds longer to cast and everything. Because I remember so clearly, like the ice beams, oh my goodness gracious, dude, they were so much faster in 0-1. I kept dying to them over and over. I had to lock in. I was sweating, and now it's kind of just like, whatever. I have a lot of time to react, essentially, and now I know about the tech where you can just block them. What the heck is that? That's some crazy speedrunner tech. Glad I watched those videos. But I just feel like at this point, I'm almost like lusting after a fantasy that will never exist unless I go play hardcore, and then
you're in a position where you've gotten to the point where you have so much experience that these things that were hard originally becomes a joke. It's the same thing with a campaign. Like, people talk about a campaign being so long in PoE 1. My recommendation is, you hate it? Great. Play it more. Do it over and over and over again. And then you'll go from 12-hour campaign to 10 hours to 8 hours to 6 hours to 5 hours. And if you put your effort into it, you can bring it down to a pretty consistent 4-hour run. And then, if you're playing a good build, like a Guardian, super easy, super smooth, just run through the campaign. You can do it 3 hours as a casual player with enough time playing the campaign. And now with the 0.5 changes, the hints and everything, that'll, new world record will definitely be there. But if you're new and you haven't only done the campaign 2 or 3 times in your entire life, then things are rough. Like, they're hard.
Right.
They're definitely hard.
Yep. Yeah, they're probably making the right decision, and it's smart of them to push back on that and give their arguments and not kind of just bat down players and say, you know what, we're doing this just because they're actually saying, no, you know what, we have literally the data, we see people discussing this, and this is for the greater good. You know, Path of Exile 2 at the end of the day does already have, you know, at least a couple challenge modes in there. You got SSF, you got hardcore. So if I really want that, I can make my own fun, which I'm going to try to do. Heck, even I tried speed running Act 1. Dude, that might have been the most fun I've had playing PoE2 in a long time. I got to Geonor at level 8. That was like 0-1 Geonor, you know? I got a medium life flask. I don't have any, like, I have one support, dude. I got to dodge those abilities. I got to make sure I am locked in. So ultimately, I can just make my own fun. So maybe I'll do that.
That comes down to you creating an objective for you. And I think a lot of people are missing that in the end game. There are now clearly displayed and visualized actual objectives. And I think a lot of people will have a lot of fun with that. Similar to you creating an objective for yourself, saying, hey, I want to do this, try this racing thing, I'm speedrunning it. And suddenly you're like, this is the most fun I've had in a long time.
It was fun.
That is just the objective behind it. There's nothing fancy. It's just an objective. And suddenly it's really fun to do.
Yeah.
It's very simple.
Yeah, that's one of the big reasons I'm pumped for challenges. Like in PoE 1, that was always my objective, was getting the challenges. And I know they're going to be really easy in PoE 2 for these first couple leagues. I think one of them was literally Ascend. Another was like do 200 maps. And there's only 8 of them. But it's still so great that they've put this checklist, this free checklist in the game with a sick armor set, better than both supporter pack armor sets, by the way. So props to Grinding Your Games for doing that. I really love that. That's gonna be good.
PoE 1 has the totem pole. I originally was like, I'm getting 40 challenges every league. I'm gonna get this totem. But they look so bad.
They do.
I stopped caring about them so quickly. I only did it for the free MTXs. You know, that racks up after all the many years, trust me. But the PoE2 statue thing, it actually looks dope. I'm like, I kind of want to do it for that reason alone, because that one looks good. Like, genuinely.
Especially, I mean, the freaking the totem in PoE 1. I don't know if you've tried to stack them in your hideout, but they exude light so bright it tanks your FPS if you have more than like 5 in your hideout. So you can't do that. Trust me, I've tried. And then 2, the only differentiating factor between all of them, they have the eagle at the top, and then they have the banner of the league. That's it. If they do like a unique statue for every PoE 2 league, dude, I gotta get all the challenges.
I don't know about that, dude.
You don't think they will?
Like, they have to have some unanimous feeling to it so that you can create in your hideout a trophy room. Look at my trophy room. You do it in PoE 1, bunch of totems lined up, looks insanely cool. If every single league statue is vastly different, it's just gonna look like any other hideout decoration.
Well, like this, right? How about the same like color scheme? They're all marble. They're all marble statues with the same pedestal, but they have a different statue on top of them. I think that'd be kind of sick. I think that'd be sick.
Maybe. I mean, maybe they could have like the very foundation of the statue being the same thing, right? Yeah, so like the platform, whatever XYZ is standing on is similar. Like that's something like that. I just think there needs to be some common denominator to represent that these are league challenge statues.
Yes.
And then you can have this trophy room. Because like I liked it in PoE 1, but then I realized like everything is just totems and they all look the same with a little banner difference. Like it was less exciting. But I think the statues looked really cool. So I think it would be really, really fun to do that in PoE 2, from my perspective.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, Ghazzy, I had a big, maybe, I don't know, maybe last topic, maybe not. We'll have to see. Big question for you that I'd love to hear your opinion on as someone who's done this before. So at this point, both of us have interviewed Grinding Your Games numerous times. You know, you've done it with Jonathan, Mark, Chris before them. I don't know if you did it with any other developers. I've done it a couple times with Jonathan, and I wanted to hear your thoughts as you're leading up to yours. That's going to be after the patch notes. I think you and DM are doing a tavern talk at some point. Date undisclosed at the moment, I believe. Right?
Yeah, for now.
For now, undisclosed. I wanted to hear your perspective on this, because from mine, it's such an honor to be able to do this, like to talk with like these incredibly intelligent, as we talked about, like great game designers who are making like one of my favorite games, one of your favorite games of all time. And the fact that they give the opportunity to talk with us is great, but oh my goodness, dude, I think they are the single most stressful, mentally taxing things that I've almost ever done in my life. Maybe I have not had a hard life, but I swear every single one of these interviews, the interview itself, amazing. Like literally you just feel like you're just chatting with somebody. It's kind of odd. It's very, very odd actually. So the hour and a half, 2 hours, all good. But before and especially after, I don't know, I feel like I go into like a spiral. Almost every time. Like there's that high, and then sometimes there's a little bit of like a spiral for me, especially the last interview. I would almost say it went poorly in the eyes of the community, and that like mentally taxed me. So my question for you, I know that was a lot of ramble. How do you feel about these dev interviews, and how do you deal with it if one goes maybe poorly in your own eyes or the eyes of the community? Because obviously when these happen, all eyes are not only on, Jonathan, Mark, Chris, used to be Chris, but they're also on you. How do you deal with the fallout of that?
I mean, I've had my fair share of feedback over the last decade. For me, it's a lot about looking at it's not so much about specifics and more about looking at how did I conduct myself in this interview? What can I improve on, and then do so. I feel like I have, for the most part, done that and slipped a few times. Something I realized leading into this one is one fundamental part that I've always, for some reason, excused with being, well, it's expected of me, and then just kept doing it when it's the wrong time and place to do it. So what I'm talking about, to not be so ominous about it, people expect me to somehow be the voice for the Minion community or something. We have plenty of great community members for Minions and whatnot, but people expect me to ask a bunch of Minion questions. So every single time I bring that in, I also bring my personal interest in those questions every single time. And the more I do it, I've realized that it's partially for me, but it's also with this weird idea that it's for the community, so the community gets what they want. But we Minion enjoyers, we're still only a fraction of the player base, and in many of these interviews, Minions is not the main focus. Mm-hmm. It's the same for this one. Sure, we got a lot of Minion love, absolutely. I will literally have zero prepared plans. I will have zero prepared plans for Minion questions, simply for the simple fact that this update has nothing to do with specific balance changes or specific archetype of builds. The focus of this update is endgame related, the replayability, and all of those parts of it.
Right.
So as a result of that being the focus, my take on this interview will be to focus on that and not bring in my personal takes or have this bad excuse of, hey, but the community expects me to ask a bunch of Minion questions. So that's how I'm going to go about it.
Interesting. Okay. So did I lose internet? 1 second, Ghazzy. I'm still streaming. No, I'm still live. I think Twitch might have lost connection. We're back. Okay. All right, cool. We back. I'll cut it in post.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Are you recording at the same time?
Yeah, I'm still recording. Yeah.
Yeah,
100%. No, I made sure to do that always. I screwed up once. It was really bad. Yeah, but we're good. Okay, we're back. Okay, Ghazzy was just saying how he's basically going to focus on Endgame, because that's what was focused on. That's what was revamped. That's where a lot of the effort went. And, as far as we know, right, not a lot of focus is going into the balance and stuff. We don't have patch notes, but still, they've basically said, still, balance is not what we did this league. We did Endgame. That was where all our dev effort was. So, okay, well, that's really interesting. And that's kind of, so yeah, the last time I spoke to them, I felt that same sort of pressure, but it wasn't even from like just the Minion community. It was kind of like the community as a whole. Like it was like all the hot button issues that have already been addressed over and over. You know, when I queried Reddit or Twitch or Twitter or Discord or YouTube and stuff and scoped out for like questions, the same sort of stuff bubbled to the top. It was like the community worries. But the thing is, that wasn't what like GGG focused on in that update. So as a result, instead of focusing on the stuff they did change and add in that update and trying to glean more information about that, I think like 80% of the interview was focusing on the stuff that they had already talked about in the past and they hadn't changed, but the community was still in uproar about, you know? So it's like, I feel like I messed up because I should have gauged that it was going to be like a whole bunch of rehashing old information or just kind of like a stalemate sort of thing. And it became like a net negative for the community because we weren't actually getting anything new. We weren't getting anything interesting or entertaining, and we weren't digging into the specifics of the new stuff, right? It was like rehashing the old. And it was kind of the same thing that you just said. It was kind of because I felt like I needed to represent the community wishes, even though that wasn't the focus of the update. I don't know. I think it's kind of the same thing. Have you run into that before? I imagine you are now as you're fielding questions for this tavern talk.
Yeah, I mean, people expect, like, people spam up, ask this, ask this, ask this, and then you get the feeling that you're going to be disappointed. Well, you're going to disappoint these people if you don't ask these questions because this is what the community wants. But I think that, like I said earlier, like my problem has been that that's been a large portion of what I've been focusing on, and I think that's the wrong approach for me.
Yeah.
And that's that's the main thing that I had never worked on when it comes to like my interview skills and all of those things. Like, you know, we you know, some are good, some are bad. It happens. But ultimately, trying to somehow cater to what we think the community wants is one thing. And like I feel like I'm expected to ask these questions. Like, it is so irrelevant because it's the wrong time and place. I could ask GGG if they would have a dev with me to have a Minion focused interview. I'm sure I could ask them. Maybe I get that, maybe not. Then Minion questions would actually fit the time and place, right? And I don't feel like I feel like multiple of my interviews have been too much of, hey, I'm trying to do this because it's expected of me, where it's the wrong time and place to do it, right? And the update, for example, now to be more in line with the recent times, this update is endgame focused. These are the things we're talking about. It's going to be more about like, endgame power creep, projected play, the new content, the stuff that's happening, maybe touch upon the new ascendancies. Maybe there will be some mini stuff there, but I am going to deliberately stay away from being the one initiating any mini questions because I am going to be working on the fact that I need to focus on what is actually relevant more so than my interest or what I think the community wants to hear from me.
Yeah, I think that's some wisdom, man. That's a great way to put it. 100%. Thanks for answering. Okay. Ghazzy, any other Path of Exile 2 stuff that you wanted to touch on tonight about Return of the Ancients?
Not really. Patch notes is going to dictate a ton. Just a friendly reminder to everyone that PoE 1 has a very underlining pressure of FOMO, where if you don't play the best stuff ever, then you're playing a bad build. PoE 2 hasn't seen that pressure that high yet, with new endgame, Pinnacle endgame being like the actual staple ballad thing we're going for. That might start to emerge more and more in PoE 2, and I just want to make sure that people are reminded that in the end, it's all about having fun with your game time. And I feel like PoE 1 player base has lost a lot of that touch as a result of the FOMO. And now the PoE 2 is getting into the scenario where more staple endgame Pinnacle content that might follow as a result of that. And just make sure you have fun.
Well said. Aim for the fun, man. Okay, well, I wanted to close out the podcast with a question, like a kind of a family question. My daughter, she turned 4 a couple months ago. And I've been thinking a lot about how I'm going to introduce her to one of my favorite pastimes, which is gaming. I was introduced when I was like really young, and I turned out okay. So as a parent yourself, Ghazzy, I'm wondering, I know you have a daughter, I believe, I'm pretty sure you have a daughter, like 99.9% sure.
Yes.
Have you thought about that at all, or have you already kind of done it? I'm curious. As a gamer?
No, not really. I feel like whatever she ends up being interested in is probably whatever that may be. I'll just be there to encourage whatever that may be. And,
Except Roblox.
you know, if that's hard, sorry.
Except Roblox. Don't do it, Gazzy.
Yeah, no.
Don't let her touch that.
I have limits. I mean, that's just called good parenting.
Yeah.
I mean, then obviously there's, you know, let's stay away from bad stuff. But you know, whatever her interest in, I think that as a parent, it's very important to encourage whatever the individual in that we're talking about is interested in, and encourage that. Chris Wilson had a really good interview with how he grew up, with the opportunities presented that he went through, where he was encouraged because of his interest in coding. And, you know, look at him now and what he's done with that encouragement, and I guess to some degree privilege of being in a position that his parents were able to do those things for him.
Yep.
So I'm kind of in that boat where my daughter's interested in freaking ponies, you know, I'll somehow find a way to encourage that, you know. If she's interested in gaming, I'll be right there with her, no matter what it is. You know, I feel like that's kind of important.
That's a lovely way to look at it. Yeah, that Chris Wilson video was amazing. It shows how much impact like parents and grandparents can have in your life. Because imagine if his grandma never encouraged him to code. No Path of Exile, none of it would have been. We wouldn't be talking right now. So yeah, 100%. Help your kids out. Get your daughter a pony. Any equestrian ranches nearby.
Let's not encourage the pony thing immediately, okay? It was just what came to mind, okay? I can't afford no goddamn pony, man.
No, she's not. Do not let her play Uma Musume, or however you say that game. Please, no. No. No horse race.
Yeah, let's not.
None of that. Okay. Yeah, I for the first time, this might be bad parent of me, but so in Mirage League, my daughter, I was playing late, you know, trying to finish up my challenges, and my daughter woke up at 11:20 at night, and I was in the middle of a really juiced map, and I was like, okay, you know what, sweetheart, just here. Daddy's going to do a map. I'm going to explain to you what's happening on screen while I do the map. So I did a Giga Juice Strand map and explained to her what was happening. I had like a Veritania shrine in because I was using the Scarab with the Conquerors. And she's like, oh my gosh, an angel. And it was good. It was really good. First time I exposed her to Path of Exile. And she's asked like, when are we going to play the angel game again? I want to see the angel game. Like, so it's very cute what they latch onto and everything. So yeah, I've thought a lot about, I'm probably going to start with like Nintendo games. I'm very tempted. We still have like a GameCube and everything. So I'm tempted to pull that out, dude. Like, is that weird that we almost want to not recreate our childhoods, but like, I feel like that's a better path than like hopping straight into like PC gaming or the Switch, like bringing them from GameCube. We still have our Wii too as well, so we can do some Wii tennis, you know. I don't know, lots to think about.
I mean, if they're interested in it, then
yeah,
you know, just encourage it, I guess. I mean, there's nothing else to really add to it. So like, that's how I would do it, at least.
Yeah,
personally.
Yeah, well,
like, I don't think there's anything wrong with it either. Everyone does it differently, right?
Yeah, definitely. All right, Ghazzy. Well, I appreciate you hopping on the pod, dude. I know it's really late where you're at. I hope you get some sleep, and I hope you enjoy tearing down your deck with your family this weekend, man.
That's going to be fun for sure. Thanks for the invite, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Talk to you later, Ghazzy. Have a good one. Bye-bye.